Hey, it's Larry Gonzales with the final housing market update for 2024. We're going to go over kind of where we started the year, where we ended the year with the big three: prices, inventory, and rates. And then we're going to talk about some of the headline news that we saw over the course of this year. And stay tuned in the next couple of weeks. We'll get my forecast for what 2025 is going to bring. Obviously a guess, but you know what? It's kind of good to have a vision of what it's going to be like, just so you can be prepared. And then if things change, well, guess what? You flex and you adjust course. So here we go. Looking at the big three: prices were up in 2024. Inventory was up bigly in 2024, and rates were up too. So let's kind of break that down. We'll look at the median sales price from single-family homes. We started the year at 1.02 million median sales price. We end at 1.115 million median sales price. Condos, but despite the huge increase in inventory of condos, condo prices went from 502,000 up to 530,000 as the median sales price at the end of the year. And this was all despite higher interest rates. So in another year where we saw interest rates go above 7% for a short period of time, we saw home prices stay steady. That just goes to show you the value of home ownership, the value people put on home ownership. Now let's look at active inventory. Folks, we have not seen active inventory in Oahu this high since before COVID. That's right. So not since COVID have we approached 3,000 active inventory homes in Oahu. Really, what does this bode? This bodes really well for 2025 for buyers. Inventory, when you break it down from single family home and condos, single family home has been really steady, going up a little bit. Where we've seen the big increase has been condos in 2024. They're going to start to sell, but I do believe we may see some of the prices for condos come down simply because of homeowners insurance issues, and also HOA maintenance fees have gone up in large part due to repairs to some of the older ones, and then the increase in hurricane insurance for condo associations. All right, we talked about rates. Well, rates, we started the year at 6.07%. We got all the way up to just above 7% in April, down to 5.6% in September, and then inflation started to go up, and we came back up to 6.6 in November, and now we're right around 6.5, right at 6.45 as we end the year. You look at this, a huge variance in interest rates, but really largely between 6 and 7% this year. What we need to see next year maybe is 5.5 to 6%, in which case we'll definitely see this inventory come down, but not at a dangerous rate, but at a more sustained and more reasonable rate. But right now, at almost 6.5 as we end the year, VA rates are up from where they were in January of 2024. Now let's look at the headline news. All right, because these are the things that really dictated a lot of what went on in our market. First, inflation stalling on its path at 2.0. Started going down and then it kind of went up. Fed begins loosening the reins on the Fed funds rate, but they are cautious going into 2025. We also had this thing called the NAR, the National Association of Realtors lawsuit. The impact on the current housing market has been minimal, but it could have a bigger impact as we get into 2025. Unemployment numbers bend, but they don't break. So those are the big news flashes for the year with regards to real estate. The core PCE, let's get into that. 2.0 has been the goal for the Fed, and we haven't been at 2.0 since 2021. April of 2021 actually was the last time we were at below 2.0. We're at 1.9% then. The core at its peak was 5.2%. That was in the fall of 2022. And then we started coming down in 2023. Summer of 2023, we really started to see the inflation come down. We got as low as 2.6% in the summer, this past summer. But as we end the year, we've seen inflation, the core inflation going up. And we're at 2.8% in November, or actually in the December reading. So the bottom line, I think, for 2025 is we need to see inflation stay below 3%. If it goes above 3%, the Fed is going to freak out again. But as long as we stay below 3% and show some improvement, then I think the Fed will probably continue to lower the Fed funds rate and certainly not raise it. All right, speaking of the Fed they started lowering the Fed funds rate this year. In September, they had a 50 basis point drop. November, another 25 basis points. And December, they had a 25 basis point drop as well. So 100 basis point drop in the Fed funds rate. Initially, their forecast was about another 100 basis points in 2025. But as inflation started to go up at the end of the year and unemployment was kind of steady, even maybe coming down a little bit, the Fed had changed its mind, said, you know what, we have to be cautious. Also, strong GDP. The Fed is saying instead of 4 at this December meeting, they said, you know what, we might just do 2. And we're going to be looking at the numbers, and they're very cautious as they head into 2025. So let's look at the NAR buyer broker commission lawsuit. This one went into effect in October. Big changes was now buyers have to have a buyer broker agreement with their real estate agent, their buyer's agent, where they agree on what commission that they or compensation they are going to give to the realtor. The seller has never had to pay the buyer's agent, but they typically have. Now the contracts are written such that the seller, if they are going to give any compensation, it is going to be in that contract separate from any concession that they give to the buyer for, let's say, closing costs. Now there is the possibility that buyers will pay their buyer agent. Could be very bad news in a seller's market where sellers aren't entitled or not really looking to or feel it's necessary to give a seller credit to the or seller compensation to the buyer's agent, and then the buyer is going to have to pay the buyer's agent. You can't roll that into the loan. This is really going to hurt low-income, first-time home buyers and veteran buyers who typically have that huge benefit of either a low down payment, and of course, in the instance of first-time home buyers and many low-income buyers and VA buyers who have no down payment. So we haven't seen that yet, but if the market shifts from a buyer's market into a seller's market, then we will start seeing a little bit how this is going to hurt those buyers. You know, it's kind of interesting with this commission lawsuit. There was a whole bunch of angst and a lot of people worried about, you know, am I going to be able to stay in this business? And I tell you what, for most people that hasn't, realtors, it was a lot of worrying for nothing right now. But I tell you, the smart realtors are getting ahead of the ball game, and they are preparing to show their value to their buyers, because they definitely have value, but they got to be able, if you're asking a buyer to pay you now, you got to really show your value. So really going forward, this is going to separate the wheat from the chaff with regards to agents who are representing buyers. Now let's look at unemployment. Unemployment rate is up, not since the onset of COVID, when unemployment went up to 13%, and then it dropped like off a cliff down to into the 4s. Actually in the 5s and 6s, then into the high 3s. We haven't had unemployment this high. Right now in 2024, we saw unemployment go back above 4%, been up as high as 4.3% in July, and now we're at 4.2%. Really, if unemployment goes up to 4.5%, then I think the Fed is going to most definitely lower the Fed funds rate, but we haven't seen that yet. We just haven't seen that. There's a million different reasons why. It could be a lot of people who are laid off in the tech world. They've got pensions or they've got a payout for a year, so they're just kind of sitting back on the pay that they're receiving while they're out of work from the company that fired them. We have that. There's a lot of other reasons, but if we see unemployment go above 4.5% in 2025, rest assured the Fed is going to lower the Fed funds rate. So what does this all mean as we end the year? Well, in Oahu and in many parts of the U.S., we are in a buyer's market. Those who wait for the rates to come down, and I have many clients who were looking to buy and they said, I think I'm going to wait for the rates to come down. If you're waiting for the rates to come down, you're going to have a very tough time as a buyer, especially as everyone else who's waiting gets off the sidelines too. And then you have the PCS and the movement season that we always have in the spring. So you have a bunch of buyers coming in. You're going to start seeing sellers stop giving those credits. And right now they're giving credits to pay the buyer's agent, to pay your closing costs, to even do temporary rate buy downs and actually make that mortgage affordable for you. But what happens if they don't? Right now you can buy a home, you can get a 2-1 buy down, and your mortgage rate will be in the 3s for that first year. Say those seller credits go away. You're not doing that temporary buy down anymore. And guess what? Now your rate is maybe in the high 5s. Wow. I tell you what, I think I'd rather have that 3 for at least a year while I wait for the rates to come down even more. All right. So that's just something to something to consider for all you folks who are wanting to buy but just waiting for rates to come down. Now is definitely the best time to buy. Sellers, stay positive. All right, seller credits are still on the table, especially on the leeward side. And if I was looking to sell a home, I would hold off until the springtime when rates may go down farther, and you definitely have more people looking to buy. Because right now there's a lot of inventory, not a lot of buyers, a lot of looky-loos, but no buyers. So that's really what you gotta, as a seller, if you can hold off until the spring to put your home on the market, then do so. That's going to save you cost out of your pocket at closing, and it's also going to help you make more on the sale of your home. That's about all I have for you guys. Have a great New Year. Spend time with your family, your loved ones, and watch some fireworks. I'm sure there'll be a few in Hawaii, as there are every year, despite them being illegal. I don't know how that works, but I love watching them anyways. All right, have a great one. Aloha.